Thank you for everybody for joining us today. My name is Lisa Bailey. I am the Chief Revenue Officer for FreePoint Technologies, and I'll be walking you through a webinar, our demo today, giving you some information regarding who we are, some problems facing manufacturers today, how we can help you solve those problems, and then I'll be going into a demo of our ShiftWorx product. So let's get started. So if you're not familiar with FreePoint, we are a MES provider located in Canada. We do have deployments globally, US, Mexico. We do have a few in South America, China, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. We have a patented technology. Actually, we own 2 patents that supports a rapid expansion to OEMs and suppliers for machine monitoring, employee engagement, and visualization of dashboards. We do have wonderful clients all across the globe in a variety of manufacturing sectors, and our product is so versatile that we're able to support the deployment and the monitoring, tracking, and engagement, regardless of what industry that you happen to be in. So what are the common manufacturing problems that we're facing today? And we've highlighted 4 of the key ones here today. So first of all, the skills gap. So one of the biggest manufacturing challenges that we're facing today is the growing skills gap. The US specifically has an aging workforce consisting mainly of baby boomers, and as such, the manufacturing sector desperately needs skilled and younger workers. Approximately 22% of the manufacturing workers will be retiring in the next few years. So that is a large problem. How are we going to attract that younger, skilled workforce? How are we going to support them to do their jobs well, engage them in part of the process to ensure that they're getting that real-time feedback to know they're doing a good job? The Internet of Things, so connected machines on the shop floor provide manufacturers the ability to collect that real-time data. So what is happening on that plant floor? How are they doing? Giving that visibility and transparency into the actual production numbers of that machine, efficiency, uptime, and downtime. And we're able to remotely connect with the machines to look at diagnosis or diagnostics and preventative repairs and maintenance. Manufacturers want to and they need to stay ahead of it to identify how they can adopt IoT to its full potential. We will have a blog coming out shortly just on this specifically on the obstacles to connecting IoT technologies in manufacturing facilities. And efficiency issues. So manufacturers have been looking for ways to be more efficient, to decrease costs, increase their efficiency, increase capacity, and remain relevant and sustainable and profitable. So instead of sacrificing that product quality that none of the customers want and frankly will accept, manufacturers now have resources at their fingertips so that we can increase efficiency and capacity by adopting some of these new technologies. And that's particularly what we're going to go through today as well. And collaboration. So there is a massive communication gap between management and the shop floor. Generally, communication is chunked out, it's interrupted, and we're not able to readily and easily share information between those 2 groups in a real time that's going to affect that positive change. So being able to facilitate on the ground communication among the employees, customers, partners, management with the digital collaboration tools is going to be a way that we can address this problem. Okay, so the keys. What are the keys to helping you solve these problems? And those keys are really the data extraction. So connecting to those machines that you might have thought before we weren't able to connect to. They might be old. They might not have Ethernet connectivity or PLCs. They may be legacy machines, those machines over 15 years of age where they're standalone, very expensive, really doing good work still, great machines, but you don't really know what's the empirical information coming off of that machine. How well are they doing? How much uptime do they have? What is their efficiency? So the first step is being able to extract that data from those machines. Regardless of make, model, age, or function, we're able to connect to those machines. We've connected to machines over 100 years old. So I always kind of joke with new companies when we're assessing their their machine on their plant floor is like, I really want those old machines, those machines that, manufacturers might be embarrassed about. I want to talk about those machines so that we can connect them and get them value adding information from those machines. So once we extract that data, what do we need to do next? We need to take that data, we need to engage with our operators. We need to make sure that they are part of that process, the evaluation process, part of the validation process of what's going on your plant floor. How can we make a difference? How can we get you the information that you need to affect change on that machine? Because you're the one that's sitting in front of that machine for 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So how can we connect you better to the plan and then what's actually happening and how to affect positive change? And then once we extract that data, we connect those machines, we engage those employees, then what do we want to do? We want to give that real-time visualization and analysis, that real-time feedback. We need to show the people that can make the changes what they need to change and where they need to improve and how they need to improve. And this goes back to connecting with that younger skilled workforce. Everybody expects this real-time feedback loop. We can have Fitbit analytics coming off of our wrists. We can have heart rate analysis. We can have all of these wonderful pieces of information that help us to do our jobs better and live our lives better. Now we need to take that same technology and same approach to the machines in the factory floor. What is actually going on those machines? Let's visualize it so we can assess it, we can analyze it, and we can make the changes required in order to do better. And we can do that all the way back to engaging with those workforce to ensure that those changes are affected. So why does it matter? So when we're visualizing the data, because we've engaged with that workforce and we've connected those machines, you're going to be able to know your true and real uptime, downtime, and capacity numbers. There are a lot of companies out there today that are doing spreadsheets and clipboards, or they're using antiquated softwares in order to collect downtimes, or they're using multiple pieces of software because each software is siloed and it does one thing individually. Well, now we're going to take all that information, aggregate it together, and we're going to give you the reports. We're going to give you that real-time feedback in terms of your uptime, your downtime, your capacity, and your production, so you can make the changes to your process in real time, not 12, 24, 36, or 48 hours later after, a bunch of Excel spreadsheets have been compiled. We're going to give it to you immediately so you can walk on that plant floor and you can affect change positively. You're going to know your true production costs. So where are you making money and where are you not? How long is it actually taking you to do that job? If you estimated 8 hours, before you didn't have the visualization to do that or the understanding of the empirical information coming off of that machine. So now you're being able to understand what's the plan, what did we estimate, what did we schedule, and then what actually happened. And we're able to connect those two pieces of information so you're able and empowered to analyze that and affect change. And having this information at your fingertips in real time is incredibly important because we don't want to make changes 3 and 4 and 5 days later. We don't want it to have to go through 3 different people, manual compiling of information, human error happens. We want this information at your fingertips at the ready so that you're able to make that change immediately and save that money, save that capacity, increase your uptime, not 3, 4, 5 days later within moments. And then we're able to facilitate management reports that matter and make a difference. So being able to push that information that's happening on that plant floor all the way up the chain, all the way up to senior management. So they're able to make CapEx decisions. They're able to understand the efficiencies on the plant floor and from an empirical standpoint, not what people think they remembered happened, not at the end of shift where you're trying to remember 8 hours ago. How long was my machine down for? No, we're taking the guesswork out of it and we're giving you the empirical connection to that machine, regardless of the age, make, or model. So when performance is measured, performance improves. And when performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. Pearson's law, and I'm sure many of you have already seen that. So when we measure, we can improve. When we measure and report back in real time, we can improve even more. And that's really what ShiftWorx does. And we're really, really excited to share this with you guys today. What you're seeing in front of you is just one example of a key dashboard that we have. The voice of the machine, being able to give you the actual empirical information coming off of that machine in order to affect change. So why is real time and feedback and visualization so important? Well, the empirical data puts all manufacturing stakeholders on the same page. So C-suite, managers, directors, plant managers, operations, supervisors, team lead, and operators. Everybody's looking at the exact same data. Nothing's secret. Nothing's hidden. There's no manila envelopes with reports being handed around. Everybody knows exactly what's going on, being connected, being on the same page, looking at the same data at the same time connects everybody that has an effect on the operation. And then being able to also measure yourself as an operator, as a team leader, or supervisor. That's really, really important. So knowing how good of a job you're doing, knowing where and when you need to improve, it's absolutely imperative as a training opportunity for supervisors and plant managers, but also for those operators themselves. They don't have to wait a month, a quarter in order to get a report back from management saying, you hit quota, you didn't hit quota, or you're doing well, you're not doing well. At any point in time, looking at these dashboards, those operators know how good of a job they're doing. And that does a lot for their confidence level and their encouragement to continue to do really, really well. And then being able to measure themselves, it obviously leads to the discovery of problems by people as they happen. So again, not waiting for weeks to get that information, getting that information immediately to affect a change now. So I mentioned that we can connect to any and all machines regardless of age, make, or model. We've connected to machines without power inputs, steam-powered forging hammers, for example. So we've connected to coffee makers just as a kind of a fun joke between offices. So really, when you provide feedback to us in terms of what mix of machines you have, mix of age, mix of function, make, model, whatever it may be, we can connect to it through a couple different methods. We have our data collection legacy connection, which is using hardware connected to the machine to get that information off the machine regarding uptime, downtime, cycle times, production counts, etc. We also have a direct connection to the PLCs, being able to bring off, machine tags, push those into ShiftWorx, being able to visualize all of that information at one point in time, in addition to the information coming off of the machine. We do that again by that legacy connection and direct to PLC connection. We then push that information to an edge device that we can then push to the cloud. Once it's pushed to the cloud, that's when we get the opportunity to engage with those dashboards and get that visual real-time feedback. So let's talk about workforce engagement. So obviously, developing or implementing, deploying a new system, especially a new software system, on the plant floor and in an organization is incredibly stressful. The first thing we need to do is get the buy-in, and the buy-in at different levels within the organization. So it's really interesting because generally when we look at a solution like this, people may say, oh, it's Big Brother. Oh, people are watching me. They're tracking me. We actually experience the exact opposite of that. When we're looking at a deployment with a new customer, we're talking to the operators, we're talking to the team leads. They're excited to be able to have input, affect change. Their voice is being heard. They are excited to be engaged, and engaged workers are productive workers. Unengaged workers are not productive workers, and you'll be able to weed those out very, very quickly through deployment. We need to tap into the knowledge that they have. Some of these operators, as I stated at the beginning, have been working here for quite some time, and they're going to be retiring soon. They have decades of knowledge about that machine or those machines, how things operate, how processes are broken or doing well. We need to tap into that knowledge and do that knowledge transfer, being able to support those new workers coming in. And then the insights. These operators on the plant floor and layered that with supervisors and management have such critical insights that will help us and support us to be able to plan for a better operation, better processes moving forward. So really, we can tell you the humans layered with the machine information can really, really fill out the story for you because humans can tell you what machines can't. And even though your machines might have a PLC connection, they might have that ability to connect and pull machine tags off, there is still a layer of really, really important information that humans are going to be able to share with you. And we want to talk about as well, at the beginning, we mentioned there's going to be this mass exodus, this mass retirement of workers from the workforce in the US specifically. But these are just some numbers and not meant to scare, but meant to really kind of hit the point home. when you are looking at attracting new workers, engaging those workers, and sharing that knowledge between older workers and new workers. Over 10,000 manufacturing employees retire every single day in the US. Every single day, and 2.69 million jobs are going to be open for retirements in the next 10 years. Some are due to natural growth, some are due to positions that have been vacant, especially with what we've experienced in the last few years. And 60% of manufacturers rank the shortage as having a high impact on business productivity. So we need to look at ways to attract that next generation of employee. And that's because they expect different communication. They expect to be motivated differently. They learn and they retain the information differently than the workers that have been on the floor for 20 and 30 years. And they expect the results, transparency into those results, and those results to be shared with them across the organization. They're looking for meaning and purpose in work, and being able to deploy a system like ShiftWorx will help you to achieve all of those things. The future success of manufacturing really relies on creating an atmosphere that's going to attract the brightest, most passionate of the next workers, and being able to ensure that we're engaging those workers, we're employing things like digitization, so shorter supply chains, disconnect between emerging workforce. We're eliminating the obstacles to ensure that the next generation of workers are excited and engaged, the better off manufacturing will be. So we want open communication. We want to engage those people. We want to communicate with them differently. We want them to retain the information, and we want to ensure that as a manufacturing facility and organization, that you understand that your people doing the work on the plant floor are just as important as your customers. So we make the value-added work measurable and visible to everybody. So being able to visualize that empirical data makes everybody accountable for their work. We can measure it, we can display it, and we can add that value-added activity, which is one of our patents, to lead to that productivity improvement. That Hawthorne effect. If you see it, if you know everybody else sees it, you're going to do better, because you don't want to be the last. You don't want to be the one with the highest downtime. You want to be a star. You want to be leading the charge there. And this also helps, in terms of positive peer pressure. When an operator sees that another operator is struggling, by looking at one of the dashboards, they're going to go to them and say, "Hey, do you need help? I see you're kind of down on your numbers today. Is there anything I can do? Hey, I worked on that machine for 5 years. I know if you do this, this, and this, that's gonna be a positive change for that machine." So visibility, having that positive peer pressure, and the Hawthorne effect, all will come to a better machine productivity. So when you're deploying a system like ShiftWorx, where your digitization deployment has taken place, what can you expect? Because I know when you're looking at software, particularly in the manufacturing industry, you're going to think relative to an ERP implementation, which is gigantic. It is 6 to 12 to 18 months of a deployment implementation, so much training, so much cost, such a high cost, especially when you're talking about implementation and support after the fact. It's this big beast of a project. But that's not the case with a digitization software like ShiftWorx. That's really not the case. Yes, we are software. Yes, we are SaaS. But you can see ROI beginning within a few months. This is just an example of a chart, a visualization of a research project that we did with Fanshawe College, with funding from Ontario Centres of Excellence and NSERC. What we did was we did an independent study. So these organizations did an independent study at one of our clients, and what they found was, after FreePoint was deployed in a fab shop, they saw a 30% uptime per machine improvement. And I know people say, hockey stick growth. We want hockey stick improvement. We want to see things getting better and better and continuing after deployment to continue to get better, because that's where sustainability, that's where profitability is going to be achieved. This is just an independent example of exactly what that will look like after deploying a system like ShiftWorx. So what can you expect from an integration of a system like ours? We told you need to visualize, you need to engage the workforce, you need to connect to those machines. So what can you expect when you're trying to evaluate a deployment like this or an integration like this? Well, it's rapid. This is not a 6, 12, 18-month deployment. Each machine will take approximately 30 to 90 minutes to install, barring any interesting developments or identification within that machine. So rapid deployment, we can get your facility deployed in less than 5 days. And as each machine comes online, as each machine is connected, you are immediately pushing data. You are immediately visualizing that machine's activity on your dashboards. You can monitor specific processes based on the functionality of that machine. For example, for a CNC machine, you can monitor when the spindle's on. If you are not confident that the spindle on will give you a positive representation of the activity of that machine, you can then measure XYZ axis and spindle on to ensure that when you're cutting chips, that means you're doing work, and that's visualized and that's referred to in the dashboard. You can drive continuous improvement, and that is through engaged people. The continuous improvement is just that, it's continuous. And the improvement you're going to see from ShiftWorx is not one time. It is not just connect, get a 30% improvement and you're done. If we go back to that slide here just for a second, what you're going to see is you improved 30%, but then what you also did was you continue to improve after the fact, because you're always looking at that information. You're always looking at how to do better. How can I get better? How can I get that extra minute, that extra percent point? How can I continue to improve our processes so that we are going to be here in the long run? And we're going to eliminate those efficiencies. So increasing, your productivity by 50%, 60%, 70%. What we realize is a lot of organizations don't really know the true productivity on their plant floor today. And that's because they don't have an empirical measurement of it. So first and foremost, we're going to get that. We're going to connect. We're going to get that productivity number. We're going to know where baseline is today so that we know how to look at improvement moving forward. And the payback is so quick. You could have payback in just a few months. You could have payback in, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, depending on the number of machines, depending on the number of shifts you have, the number of machines you have running. So ROI is completely achievable within just a few months. Okay, so getting started today. So how do you do it? I'm going to tell you how you do it, because it's this big thing that we want to make sure that we chunk out into easy steps. Step one, we're just going to connect. We're going to get a group, a department, a building, one of the building. We're just going to connect to a group and get people comfortable with the system. We're going to train all your employees. We're going to train management, senior management, operators, team leads, everybody that's going to interact with ShiftWorx. We're going to train them on how to use it relative to their role and relative to their permission set within the system. We're going to engage your operators. We're going to work with them. We're going to have regular meetings with them, as well as your team leads and your administrators. We're going to show them how to use dashboards. We're going to help you build layouts so that the information that they're seeing is relevant to themselves and the information that matters to them. We're going to collect that baseline, and then we're going to continue to report against it and analyze against it on how we can continue to improve. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift to an actual demo. So this is our system. This is ShiftWorx. Welcome to ShiftWorx. This is one of our layouts. And when I say one of, there's probably an infinite number of ways that you can create a layout. What we would suggest, and I'm going to go through a few examples of this, is specific layouts for specific audiences. So this would be your traditional operator level layout. What you're seeing before you is one machine or one line represented. And if you just want to watch for my cursor here, on the left-hand side where I'm waving my cursor, that is 24 hours ago. And over here where you see on the right-hand side, that live red box, that is today, live right now. So left to right, you're seeing a 24-hour period of that machine's activity. And what you're seeing is the blue sections of this bar are when the machine is doing the activity that we defined. So when we connect to your machine through the legacy connection or through the direct to the PLC connection, we can define what activity means for that machine. So what state needs to be true in order for us to paint this section blue. And that can go down to specific times, that can go down to specific activities. So what you're seeing is the blue spaces on this bar are when it's doing work, the white spaces are when it's not doing work. So right away, you're able to get a visualization of how often was my machine working, actually doing work, actually making money, making parts, doing an activity. And then what you're able to see down here at the bottom, these boxes are these boxes are KPIs. And these boxes are going to tell you how many parts have you made, what is the uptime for my shift, what program name am I running? So am I connected to the machine? And I'm giving you the direct information from the machine. What's happening on my machine? Again, going back to that real-time feedback. If I don't know what my goal is, I don't know if I'm achieving my goal, and I don't know how I need to affect my behavior in order to achieve that goal. So right under the blue bar on this line right here called status, these are where we're going to engage with the bar. We're going to engage with ShiftWorx as an operator, and we're going to put our human knowledge on top of the empirical data that came from the machine. I'm the operator. I know what's going on with this machine all day. I can put my information in here so that it is collected and analyzed along with the information coming from the machine so we can know what's going on our plant floor. So you're going to see these little colored boxes are status codes. So what we've done is here in these little white spaces, we can tell the system, we can tell ShiftWorx, hey, ShiftWorx, I was down. It was not scheduled. I was down because I had a programming issue. So now what we're able to determine is for 4 minutes and 40 seconds, this machine was down because I had a programming issue. And it was down for 6 minutes and 30 seconds because I was waiting on a crane. I had to do a teardown for 5 minutes and 33 seconds. So being able to allocate the status codes based on the activity of the machine is going to help you when reporting on your status code usage. What are the issues in my process? What can I do better? What do I need to change? What's that low-hanging fruit that I need to attack and then move on and improve so that I'm not losing time on my machines? We can also see that here for third shift, we were on preventative maintenance. So instead of this machine running for third shift, it was doing preventative maintenance while we didn't have anything scheduled. So under the status line, you can see jobs. So we're also able to layer another piece of information on top of the status codes, which is what job am I running? So we're able to see here that we've been running 3 different jobs yesterday. So we ran this one, just about half of the shift for afternoons. CRV, DRV window 1 button was run for the rest of afternoon shift. And right now I'm working on driver side door. So we can see this particular job has been running for 5 hours and 28 minutes. So now we're able to analyze and report on planned versus actual. How long should CRV driver side door take you? Well, we know it should take 8 hours because that's what we've estimated. That's what we did for sales, and that's what we scheduled. Well, now we're able to track, well, how long did it actually take to run? So we know if we went under or over, we need to look at that. We need to find out what happened and being able to go historically and report on what happened during that run for that job, what status codes were used, why did we lose downtime? Or sorry, why did we lose machine time, uptime? Well, we were down. Here's the reasons why we were down. Or maybe estimating doesn't know the true time it takes in order to run a job. So collecting this information on the actual amount of time it takes to run a job, we're able to then share with management, with scheduling, with sales. Hey guys, you've been estimating 8 hours for this job. We've run it 5 times. There's not been a lot of downtime on these machines. We're showing it's really going to take us 9.5 hours to run this job. You're going to have to change up your estimation. And scheduling is going to have to change up what they schedule because we feel this is really the amount of time it's going to take to run this job. So giving that visibility into planned versus actual will really then to help support other parts of the organization to ensure that you are estimating, scheduling, and running the appropriate job for the appropriate amount of time and making money and not losing money on that job. Additionally, underneath that, we've got scrap. So scrap is an issue for a lot of people. Not every organization has a scrap problem, but if you do have scrap, you're able to quickly identify the fact that there was a scrap event, how many pieces of scrap were produced, and what was the reason for that scrap being produced. We're going to say that there were burn marks, and that was the job it went to. So then what's going to happen is we see another 2 there. So then you can go back and you can report on, and in real time, you can have an understanding to how many pieces of scrap have I produced? if I know that I've run this job 15 times and on average I have X number of pieces of scrap, then I need to make sure that my production numbers include the scrap as part of the process. So we know if our production run is 150, well, maybe our production run needs to be 165 to account for average scrap. Additionally, underneath scrap, we have operators. So you've got the job. We're running the job. We understand the status codes, what's going on, why are we down, why are we up, who's running this job, and on what machine is it running. So being able to understand which operator is responsible for that job will help for many things. So time tracking, hourly tracking, asset tracking. We're able to understand how long it takes somebody to run a job and frankly, who does a good job of running which job. And then underneath, we also have notes. So notes is important for us to understand what are those weird things that happened on this job, on this machine at this particular time, so that we're able to do better. So for example, Mark from maintenance said that lubrication as per preventative maintenance schedule was done. We can see that there's another note. Machine started making a grinding noise, did not affect production, but at least it's there so we know if we have to go back and look at it, or how many times have we run a note on this machine about this issue, you're able to go back and review it. So these three buttons down here, call maintenance, call supervisor, call QA, these are our digital call boxes. So it's very similar to an and-on system where we're able to click on the button and call maintenance. So what happens now in the back end of our system is it sends out a text message and it sends out an email. And it says, hey, maintenance on first shift, heads up, line 1 needs you. And that's going to be traceable for mean time to response, to ensure that we know how long it takes for maintenance to respond to a call. We know how many times we've had to call a particular group, whether it's maintenance, whether it's supervisor, whatever it may be. It also saves the operator from having to leave their station to go and find that person. Because I mean, you know how big these facilities can be, and we know sometimes people can hide well. So we're able to digitally, through email and through text message, call out the person that's needed on that machine and track it. Okay, I want to show another visualization, another dashboard that's incredibly important. So this dashboard is one that's going to be important for visualizing on the plant floor as a whole. So putting this on a 60-inch screen TV on the plant floor so everyone can see what's going on these machines. So just like I mentioned before about that positive peer pressure and visualization of everyone's machines, having this TV screen, pardon me, in a particular area, department, or on the plant, depending on the size, is really important so everybody can see what's going on. Everyone can see how well the machines are doing, who's doing a good job, who needs help, what are your KPIs looking like for that day, which machines are offline, which machines are online. As well for supervisors, it's really, really imperative for them to look at a screen like this and go, who needs my attention? Who needs my help? What doesn't look right? How do I make that better? So this is another example of a layout that can support efficiencies within the organization. So this is an alternate view. This from the back end of things still takes all of that empirical data. It still takes all of that information coming off of those machines and aggregates it to a group, a department, or a plant as a whole. So this is typically what I would say would be our supervisor's view, looking at the day shift and the afternoon shift as a whole, looking at the uptimes in minutes, looking at the parts produced, goal to shift or uptime shift, whatever it may be. This is a really good layout for supervisors to have a very, very quick glance. How well is my shift doing? What is the health of my shift? And without going into finer detail at the machine level, like we did with the operator view, this gives them the information that they want. Now we've got another view here that is just another way for operators to engage. So sometimes people don't like dragging and dropping. They don't like putting information on the bar. So what you're able to do is within these boxes at the bottom, you're just able to quickly then affect change and say, you know, I changed my job. This is the job I'm working on now. This is the operator I'm working on now. Again, just ensuring that the audience of that particular layout has it optimized. It's optimized to the way that they learn, the way that they work, the way that they digest information. So being able to really cater to their needs is important. And then as well, this is just another representation of a different way for us to show information. This is typically, again, a supervisor's view where we're looking at aggregated data across a plant floor. So for example, how many brake press counts were there on days? How many stamping press counts were there on days? What did our day shift do as a whole? What was our entire press count? What was our percentage? It could be a percentage, it could be a count, it could be a cycle. How many, what was our average cycle time for this press? And an aggregated piece of data, understanding across all of your presses or all of your department or your whole floor. So being able to collect the information individually from each machine and then aggregate that information into a digestible layout, depending on the audience, is incredibly important. And being able to do that in a flexible way is something that we're incredibly proud of with our ShiftWorx product. Okay, I just want to pop into another part of ShiftWorx, which kind of lives in the back end and is really important as well. So being able to have notifications is something that you're going to think of as a safeguard. So we've got operators at machines, we've got operators one-to-one or one-to-many, depending on what sort of operation you have going. But what you want to do is you want to have that safety net built behind that operator. So if something somewhere has that person's attention and they don't notice that a machine is outside of a normal state, you don't want to lose money. You don't want to have that machine unattended. You don't want to have that unideal state for too long. So what notifications does is notifications will alert or notify the person or people on that particular shift responsible for those machines when that ideal state is no longer true. So for example, we can create a machine alert that says CNC2 when the spindle on. So if the spindle is off for more than 20 minutes, oops, not total time. For 20 minutes, I want to be alerted because that ideal state is normal for our organization. So if our spindles, and you always create a buffer, but if our spindles are off for 15 minutes, it's not, fire alarms. We're not worried about it. That's a normal state. But let's give ourselves a 5-minute buffer there and say when that CNC is off for 20 minutes, that's unusual. That shouldn't happen. That should be, looked at. Somebody should be notified about that, especially when you're looking at things like hourly burden rates. For those really, really high value machines, some of those lasers, for example, can be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per hour to run those machines. And when you're down for 20 minutes because somebody got distracted, that costs you a lot of money. So having this safety net built behind the operator to ensure that it's their backup. If they get distracted, we're going to notify somebody. You're going to save your butt. You're going to be able to get that machine back working and in an ideal state as quickly as we can because we've notified who needs to be notified that it's it's outside of that ideal state. So now we've collected all this data and we're getting close to the end. We're collecting all the data. We've engaged our workforce. We've put in status codes. We're tracking the job. We're tracking the operator, tracking notes. We've got our notifications set up. We've got our digital and-on boxes, call boxes set up. You're well prepared. And your employees feel great. There's communication happening between the employees and middle management and senior management, and that's an ideal state for you. So now we need to take all that information and we need to report it up the chain. And being able to report on any and all of the information that we've been collecting is going to be powerful because we want to know, management wants to know, am I up? What's my uptime? What's my downtime? What's my OEE? What's my percentage? How many parts have I produced in this shift? And being able to pull all of the reports that they need and being able to not only pull the reports, but then schedule the reports and say, hey, I want to know every single morning what my shift did the previous day. I want to know how many times that I've used this status code. I want to know how many times that we've been waiting on a crane. I want to know how many times we've had unscheduled downtime and how many minutes that means across my plant floor. Being able to look at the information that we're collecting and analyze it and then make the changes necessary is where the true impact happens. And being able to report within ShiftWorx, we're able to do that in many different ways. We're able to report by machine, group of machines, time periods. we're able to analyze different pieces of data that are being collected within ShiftWorx so that we're able to give the insights into senior management to affect those changes. We're also able to extract the data from ShiftWorx. So we're at, in a CSV file, we can extract it and import it into another system. We can also build integrations to other systems so that you can push this information into your ERP or your financial system and understand within that system's reporting features, what was my plan versus actual? Where did we make money? Where did we lose money? Where do we need to focus on?